Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hello everyone, I'm racing's greatest showman, Randy Pettitt, the voice of historic Madhouse, Bowman Gray Racing in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, my hometown, and the man you hear on Friday nights at the infamous Ace Speedway just outside of Burlington, North Carolina. And welcome to Rattling the Rollcage. First, right out of the chute, we want to thank Turn and Burn Raceway. They are a slot car and RC facility and a hobby center right here in the Midway Town Center in Midway, North Carolina, and it's midway between Winston-Salem and Lexington, right off exit 100 on US 52. Thanks to Bryant Robertson, one of the many great Bowman Gray racers, and a friend of mine who's allowing us to use this great facility. If you're looking for something fun to do with your kids or your family, good old-fashioned family fun, they got slot car track, they got an RC track where you can race those RC cars, they got lots of model cars, fun stuff for kids and big kids of all ages, including me. Well, in our Legends of the Madhouse series, we have got the two winningest brothers to ever suit up at historic Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And to my right, we have got Jimmy Johnson. Now, folks, this is the original Jimmy Johnson, not to be imitated. And Jimmy handed me a little note card here where I can cheat a little bit because he has so many accolades at Bowman Gray Stadium. He raced there during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I had the pleasure of announcing some of his races toward the end of his career. He has 98 victories at Bowman Gray Stadium, the most wins of any driver in any division. He won 6 sportsman championships at Bowman Gray. Many other awards, including the most popular driver award, which I'm sure meant a lot to you as a driver, having the fans behind you. And Jimmy also won at various dirt tracks and won some championships dirt track racing as well. And as I like to call him, he's the original Jimmy Johnson, the one from Walkertown, North Carolina. And these guys are brothers. His brother, Johnny Johnson. And Johnny, I don't have my handy note card for you, but I know you've been at Bowman Gray Stadium like Jimmy for decades. And you were just telling me a little while ago, you were racing, the day before you turned 80. So you're still out there racing. Johnny is a multi-time winner and champion in the East Coast Flathead Ford Association. And we'll try to put a little picture or video up of those cars. Those are really cool cars. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But prior to that, Johnny was one of the stars of the old Winston Racing Series, weekly racing at historic Bowman Gray Stadium. He won 39 times in the main event modified division. Johnny also had a win or two in the lower divisions there, and he was a track champion in 1984. Come close a few other times too, Johnny. We'll talk about that. But it's so great to have these two brothers here. A ton of wins between them, a lot of championships, and we're going to talk about why we never saw them race together and modified at Bowman Gray and some other topics. We want to make sure that you fans know we're here because of great sponsors. We're going to put those sponsors up there in the video, and we want to make sure that you help out these local businesses, these small businesses, these people that support racing and support channels like ours. And our sister channel, Monday Morning Racer, with my good friend Lee Kraft, who's producing all of our shows this year. Make sure you check out Monday Morning Racer on YouTube as well. And hit that like button, hit the subscribe button on Rattling the Rollcage to keep up with our future videos. Well, Johnny, I want to start with you. You were telling me a few minutes ago, you're still at it, still racing, and you are now 80, how old?
Just 80.
He just turned 80, folks. This man's
in June.
He turned 80 years old in June. You were telling me the day before your 80th birthday. Tell me about that race in the East Coast Flathead Ford.
Well, we went to Carteret County down at Swansboro.
Very, very beautiful track. I worked there for a while.
It is, and the word got out it's my birthday. So they called me up there and interviewed me. How old are you going to be? I said 80, and they said, well, why do you get in the window, in the door, and everybody else gets in the door? I said, they ain't old enough to get in yet. So everybody kind of cheered, and I kind of showed myself. I started outside pole and liked probably 10 car lengths to lap in the whole field one time. So anyway, I went in the pits and apologized to them. I said, guys, I'm sorry. I showed myself. I drove every lap like I was qualifying, and I said, I'm sorry. And they said, you ain't got nothing to be sorry about. I said, no, and I tell you, if every one of you, 79-year-old, and you can lap the field, go for it.
So. Great story. Now, Johnny, every time you come back to Bowman Gray and run the East Coast Flathead Fords, I can just tell walking in the pit area, you got a little bit of extra excitement. Your home track, the hometown fans there to watch you do it, and I know you take great pride in winning there as well.
I do. I really like to go over there. The crowd and the people comes down and, oh, I'm so glad to see you, and it just goes on. And that and Carteret County is two of my favorite tracks to go to, and I'm gonna try it again.
I got you. All right. Well, Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
I hadn't seen you in a while since the Tried Racing preview the last time I saw you, and you're looking great. And I always have trouble remember which one or two you two are younger, is the way I'll put it. So which one of you two are the younger brother?
I turned 79 November 25th.
Okay, so you're the young pup in the crowd here.
Yeah,
Now
I'm
your
a baby.
Your brother's still out here racing and stuff. You have not been in a race car in a while, from what I remember. But I guess back in the day when I was a kid growing up, there was no greater thrill for me than going to Bowman Gray Stadium. The bright lights, the smell, the people. The French fries with the salt and vinegar, the popcorn, the Coke. It's Pepsi track now. But going to Bowman Gray Stadium, one of the things I remember is that orange number 17 car. It didn't matter if you started in the back, if you were the inside or the outside. Everybody was watching you because they knew you were going to the front. So for all these people out there watching this video and going, man, they can't pass at Bowman Gray Stadium. This guy right here probably passed more cars on the outside lane at Bowman Gray Stadium than anybody I've ever seen. It just seemed like that you love doing that. Talk about that a little bit, that racing on the outside groove at Bowman Gray.
Well, I got some of that experience on the dirt tracks. And, naturally the outside of the racetrack at Bowman Gray is slick.
Right.
But on a dirt track, if you turn sideways, that's the way you need to be.
Right.
Well, if it turned sideways at Bowman Gray with me, that didn't make no difference to me because I was used to it.
Right.
And I was out there more or less by myself because everybody else trying to run the inside.
Right.
And, I had my own racetrack, and I had a lot of accomplishment by doing that. And
Did you go into the races over there with the mindset, I'm going to set my car up where I can pass people on the outside? Was that part of the game?
It didn't make no difference to me. When I went on the racetrack, you see most people are running around the inside of the racetrack. Well, I never had no pattern to run because I was stupid enough that I could know that I wasn't going to get the whole racetrack to myself anyway. So if you run different angles on the racetrack, when you got there, well, I can do this because I already done it.
Gotcha.
And it made a lot of people mad, and it made a lot of people unhappy. But,
You kind of marched to the beat of your own drummer, so to speak.
yeah, I passed them in the grass and passed some of them up on the guardrail.
Right. Whatever worked.
Whatever angle I could get, But I didn't go to lose. I went to win, and left my friends and relatives at home.
I hear you. One thing I remember distinctly is when you would win, about half of that place would be standing up cheering, and the other half was booing the heck out of you. And you were, for a time at least, sort of like the Dale Earnhardt of Bowman Gray, if you will, in the respect that they were either cheering for you or they was booing the heck out of you, but you always got a reaction from that crowd over there.
Well, they always knew who I was. I had a sponsor, I'll not call his name, but I had a sponsor. People would call him and say, I'm not going to buy your products as long as you sponsor him. And he told him, said, look, said, publicity, bad publicity, is good as good publicity.
I got you.
Because at least somebody knows him and knows the sponsor.
Right.
So he was well pleased with it, and I was too. And that's the way we kept sponsored for so long, was the fact that he liked us and we liked him. And if somebody didn't like us, you can't have everybody liking you and everybody hating you. If you did, you wouldn't have but one class of people there.
That's
and
right.
then next week, it wouldn't be nobody there,
Right. Got to have the white hats and the black hats.
Yeah.
Johnny Johnson, if I remember correctly, you got your start in racing at Bowman Gray, is that right? Your brother run dirt, but you started at Bowman Gray, if I remember right. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what got you wanting to run at Bowman Gray. Were you a fan before you went over there, or was it Jimmy racing, or what got you interested in racing at the Madhouse?
Well, as a child, we'd go over on Saturday night with people. And then I went in service. I got out of service and started going back.
Which branch?
Navy,
So
U.S.
you're
Navy.
Navy. Thank you for your service.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And so I decided to build a car. And I didn't know how to build a car. Anyway.
Which division, Johnny?
Yeah, it'd be a hobby then.
The hobby, okay.
Yeah.
Which later became the street stock division
No,
of Bowman Gray.
became the limited sport.
Limited, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I built the car and went out to practice, and I'd run in the corner and it'd just flop up, just a flopping around. And Paul Walton told me, said, you need to turn your carburetor a quarter of a turn. Had a fish carburetor, which you wasn't supposed to run. I later found out. But anyway, I started outside pole, and Jim Brewer, who was the hot dog in a Plymouth.
Old Yeller, yep.
And I jumped him, and I went in the corner 4 car lengths ahead of him in that 55 Ford.
Wow.
And when I cut it, hit the wheels laid down on it, it just went side with the wheels under it, right towards the guardrail. And I thought, well, I'll get them back another turn. I run up there, and when I whipped it in, I run right into that barrel.
Oh, wow. Now, folks, if you haven't been to Bowman Gray Stadium, at the entrance of Pit Road, there's a huge, like one of those huge barrels where they ship chemicals, and that thing, there's like 2 or 3 of them. They're filled with concrete, and they go deep into the ground several feet. That hurt, didn't it?
It did, and the wrecker come out there, hooked to it, and I said, how much you charge to pull it home for me? You used the tow
That's
bar.
not a good first
Used
night.
the tow bar. You didn't have a
Right.
trailer or nothing like that. He said, I can't do it after the race. But anyway, he pulled it home for me, whatever it was. And
So your beginning at Bowman Gray didn't start out too hot.
no, but the ambition was there to make more than a half a lap,
Right.
or 2/3 of a lap. So kept improving on it.
Were you able to fix that car, or did you have to do another car?
Yeah, I think I put another front end on it or something, and so anyway, we went back, and finally we found out. I didn't know it about tires. I went down to Pettit's, and I said, I need some tires. They carried me back there and said, here's a warehouse, help yourself, pick out what you want.
You're talking about Petty Enterprises.
Yeah, I
got
picked
you.
out 4, just like brand new ones. And I put them on, and I think we went down to that little speedway in Greensboro. Anyway, you
Tar Heel.
Tar Heel.
Okay.
And you could just think about cutting it and the car would spin out. And I said, man, these tires ain't good as them old tires I had. Come to find out, I picked out a set for Daytona,
Wow.
So
Whoops.
anyway, we learned that Goodyear had a tire number T16. And so when I got some of those tires, I started improving on my driving
Gotcha.
and the car handling.
So you
and
learned a
stuff like
couple
that.
good lessons right out of the chute.
I did, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I got you. Well, now which one of you two started racing first?
About the same year.
About the same.
Well-
Now, Jimmy, you started out on dirt, right?
No.
No.
Yeah, well, I got a picture of a car in there in that.
In the scrapbook. Jimmy and Johnny brought their scrapbooks, and we're going to get some of these pictures and share them in the video.
I never run it but twice. I run it one time at Rockingham on a 3/8 mile dirt. Started on the pole and running last on the first lap. But
So both of you got off to a rough
Johnny
start.
built his car and gave it to me because at that time they was running overhead 6-cylinder valve,
Okay.
and you couldn't put an overhead 6-cylinder valve engine in this car without cutting the floorboards out.
Ah, okay.
So he gave it to me, and I put a flathead 6-cylinder in it.
Okay.
And it's about 40 horsepower shy. So
40 altogether, I believe.
we took it down to Rockingham, and I run last down there. Johnny said we need to lock a rear end on the car, which you didn't run a lock rear end. Couldn't run one, but we locked it. And that didn't help none, so I parked it and sold it. But I didn't run it but twice.
I got
so
you.
I didn't even count that as getting started.
So how did you get into the dirt business?
Well, later on, I built a hobby car, which was 1968, Easter Monday. Car number 11, 56 Ford. I started 15th and spun out one time and finished 4th
Not bad.
at Bowman Gray. Well, I run the whole season, and 4th was the best I accomplished. But I did win a heat race. So they told us back then, if they had a race somewhere else and you didn't get permission to go, they'd fine you. Well, me and Johnny went to Pulaski Speedway, which
In
is
Virginia, yeah.
Motor Mile now.
Right, yep, in Virginia, yeah.
And
Which was dirt back then,
yeah,
right? Yep.
and they got on us and they're gonna find us. I said, hell, you ain't gonna find me. I ain't coming back. So I went to 311, run 311 from 69 to 74.
Okay.
And I had a bad accident over there in 74. Turned the car over, went down the bank, and got out about 40 from here to him. And it blew up, burnt completely up. I
Wow.
got a picture
So
of
you
it.
had a real close call there.
Yeah.
You could have got killed.
So I said, I'm going back to Bowman Gray.
Now, during your time at 311, I've been there, and probably a lot of fans have too. Did you win any races there? Tell us a little bit about.
And the first year I drove for my guy that I stayed with so long, I won't call his name, started 65 and won 47 on dirt
Wow,
in the hobby.
that's pretty stout.
Yeah. And
That's a pretty good winning percentage. I believe anybody would take that one.
Oh, yeah.
so when I decided to go back to Bowman Gray, we built somebody already had Sonny Southern at it. We got from him 64 Chevelle. And I run it one time at 311 after I burnt the Nova up and finished third, I think. So I took that dirt car and put asphalt tires on it and go back to Bowman Gray.
Well, how'd that work out first time you went out there?
Alfred Hill was the King Bee.
Yep,
I finished second behind Alfred Hill.
that's a
That
pretty
only
good start. Yeah.
with a dirt car. Nothing changed from dirt to asphalt. Well, that's in 75. In 76, my car owner said, we're going to build a new car. I said, how much it costs? He come up with a figure. I said, well, okay, go ahead. So the first bill we got from Hank Thomas built it. Well, he didn't build it, but Les Barr, he worked for Hank.
Sure.
And first bill we got was like 3 times more than what the car was going to cost.
Wow.
I said, I quit. He said, well, I'm going ahead and build it. I said, well, you go ahead and build it. I'll drive it for nothing.
I got you.
So built it. Go over first practice. Run under record about a half a second.
Wow.
So we come up race time.
Yeah, Hank Thomas, and we'll have Hank on this program at some point.
Yeah.
Hank had run at Bowman Gray and knew the track pretty well, and was getting away from driving and getting into the performance business, building cars and that thing. So he built a lot of winning cars at Bowman Gray, and you were one of those guys that made him look awfully good.
Yeah, so the first night I drove third, and they give a green flag with the 2 cars in front of me. It wasn't fast enough, so I just put 2 wheels in the dirt and went by them. And got down to the first turn and let up. It didn't let up.
Oh wow!
Boom! Right straight in
The
the
throttle
wall.
hang?
Yeah.
Wow.
First night,
Brand new
first
race
lap,
car?
first turn.
Oh my goodness!
So
You guys are
the-
cursed.
So the wrecker come out there and get it, and I walked back, I hang my head,
I'll bet.
Everybody cheering and booing and carrying on. The car said, what happened, Johnson? I said, the throttle hung. Ain't no damn way the throttle hang on that car. I said, well, look at it. That was flat on the floor. He said, why didn't you cut the switch off? I said, if I'd have had that damn much time, I'd have jumped out of it.
So the great Jimmy Johnson the original Jimmy Johnson comes from dirt and has a horrible start at Bowman Gray Stadium, and we'll pick back up with your story about your what was then limited sportsman days. I'm gonna turn back over here to you, Johnny Johnson. So you got going at Bowman Gray in the lower division, and how long did you race before you got the itch to go to modified?
I went to modified. I started in '64 and '74. The last car that Pert Brown drove was a Max Spurrier car.
Okay, yeah.
And so me and this guy went in together and bought it. And
Which
went,
was a good car.
oh yeah,
Max was,
yeah. And
Max
we
had
went
a
to,
great
my
team.
first race in a modified was Caraway.
Okay.
And there's 24 cars started, and I finished ninth, which I was
Not a
real
bad
pleased.
start.
And then that year, I believe the paper said the first 3 weeks, first 5 weeks, had 3/3 and a second
At Bowman Gray.
at Bowman Gray.
That's a pretty doggone good start for a rookie.
Yeah, and
That's
that-
incredible in the modified.
Then I won 2 races that year. I was the first rookie to ever win a race, and I won 2.
Okay, now I was
In
not
the
aware of
modified
that.
division.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's true. And so progressed, and we built a new modified, and I got sitting on the pole, and me and Ralph Brinkley was starting on the front line a whole lot together.
Right, I remember.
And we didn't really have a falling out, but we respected each other, but we was running close enough as some contact once in a while.
Understand?
You know?
It was Bowman Gray.
Yeah, and so as time went on, I actually got fired because I wouldn't spin a guy out and win a race.
Wow.
And
So you were driving for somebody else.
I drive with somebody else, yeah,
gotcha.
or was in with somebody else.
Gotcha. Understand. Partners.
And then I got fired the second time. I had got the car ready to go and all that over the winter. And I got a call, and he said, "I'm just going to change drivers, crew, and everything." And I said, "Okay, that's good." So Reed Vaden, who owned Paul Radford's car,
Right.
they built me a Richie Evans copy. And I didn't get it till late in '83.
Okay.
And I ended up won 3 races that year, the Budweiser 100 and 2 others. And then the next year I won 5 races and a championship.
So 84, that was,
My second year as car owner.
yeah.
And I said at that point that the next man that fires me is going to get up early. So I ended up and actually had 2 cars, and there at the last, me and Kevin Powell hooked up, and that was just wonderful. I mean, I had a new dually all the time. We never had a crossword. We still good friends, and that was some of my happiest times in racing. But I was getting into building street rods.
Right.
So I told him I didn't want to race no more. So we worked out a deal.
I was wondering how you got out. 'cause
Yeah.
You would, it seemed like your starts would get a little more infrequent.
Yeah.
And you were,
Well, I actually quit.
Right.
They gave me a going away party and all that, and I actually quit. And then the opportunity came back, and I had 2 sponsors with good money to run 5 races. Well, I ended up actually blowed 2 motors, and it cost me about $10,000 more than I got.
wow.
So,
So you went from a surplus to a deficit.
yeah.
Racing has a way of doing that, doesn't it?
Right.
Now, during your time, your heyday, if you will, from '83 until the early '90s.
Yeah.
That '84 season was probably your finest season, wasn't it?
No.
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 No, you had one more.
89.
Right.
89, I won the first 5 races, was leading the 6th when the floor shifter fell off.
Okay.
I won every bonus they had. I won 2 of the big races, finished second in the other big race, and the 2 big races were the Winstons.
But Philip Smith just barely beat you out for the championship, if I remember correctly. He
Yeah,
was 88
yeah.
and 89
And
champ.
anyway, I got the $5,000 bonus,
Winston,
leading
yep.
the most laps, got all the bonuses. I mean, that year was the best year money-wise that, well, I reckon overall it's,
Just a little short on that second championship,
yeah,
though.
right.
Did it bother you when you hung up your helmet from Bowman Gray that you only had one title, or you're pretty thankful just that you had that one?
No, I was just blessed to go over there and race, and then Kevin got a win. And I just as thrilled over that as I was if I was winning.
I think everybody was glad to
Yeah,
see Crazy
and
Kevin
I
Powell
mean,
in the
he's a
race.
super nice guy, and I had a new dually every week. People would stand out there and look to see what I was coming in, and he might get it and sell it and bring me another one, and it was just a wonderful relationship. And in fact, I told Gary Myers, I said, Gary, you're lucky. You got 2 sons, and they both interested in racing. And I said, I had to adopt me one. So
I got you. That makes perfect sense.
it does, yes,
Well, I'll
sir.
cut things off right there with you. I'm going to shift back to Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy, you run the dirt for a while, and then you finally get going at Bowman Gray, and kind of got off to a rough start. But once you got going, I'm going to pull this card back out here again. You, when you hung up your helmet at Bowman Gray, you had 98 victories, and as we sit here today, that's more than anybody else. Now, Tim Brown, who was in this studio along with Burt Myers earlier, both of those two men, maybe one day they'll catch you, but right now you're still top of the mountain with 98 wins. Now, on 98, I know there's probably a couple or 3 in there, maybe you shouldn't have won and you did, and there's probably a few trophies floating around somebody else's garage that you probably should have took home and you didn't. But that 98, that was pretty incredible. Talk about, are there any of those wins that stand out? Is there any one particular season that stands out for you?
Well, the years that I started back was in 75 was that dirt car. In 76, I got the Nova from Hank Thomas. I run that car 5 years and won 40 races with it.
Wow. 5 years, 40 wins. That's an average of like 8 a season. That's incredible.
Well,
And Bowman Gray is particularly incredible. It's so hard to win there.
Well, what a lot of people don't know is the fact that I won those 98 races from 76 to 99. That's 23 years.
So that's pretty consistent.
Yeah,
You were a
that's
winner
an average of
year in and
4
year
races
out. Right,
a year.
yeah, four year, which is
But I actually got paid for 102 wins.
okay. And that's where I was going with that. I
Yeah.
know there were a few maybe where you got DQ'd
Exactly.
or whatever and they didn't go into record books. And then there's probably a few where you kind of fluked into it for some reason or another. That
Exact-
happens when you
yeah.
race that long.
But
Is there a particular year though that you're like, when you're sitting at home on the front porch and
Well-
thinking about it, that really stands out?
you know, the first in 1990, the first race they had over there, I just had heart surgery.
Yep, I remember that.
And I got somebody
was
to
in
carry
house
me
with
over.
that, yeah.
I can't remember who
Yeah.
it was. But I was about as near death as anybody could be. But I went in the clubhouse and spoke to Eloise.
Miss Hawkins.
Yeah, Miss
He's
Hawkins.
talking about Miss Hawkins. She was the wife of Alvin Hawkins.
Alvin.
Alvin Hawkins' wife, and she was the person in charge of Bowman Gray at that time. Go ahead, Jimmy.
And I told her, I said, I didn't want to miss a race, so I came over here. And I listened at them practice a little bit, and then went back home, cried all the way home.
Wow.
And the shop that I drove out of, I could hear those cars running out there, and nobody called me and said, well, we're sorry you can't be here, and this blah, blah, blah. And
So it was pretty down time.
yeah. And I guess the most outstanding thing that happened in my career was I set out that whole year. And I went back in 91.
Right, and I was there.
And I think the second race I won it.
Yep.
And I felt like King George, you know. Shook that monkey off my back.
Right.
So after heart surgery, I won 27 races.
Wow.
After heart surgery.
After heart surgery. That's quite a comeback. Now, I was there watching you. I don't know if struggle's the right word, but it was a real struggle for you. I knew you really wanted to get to 100 before you quit, and you were just never quite able to get it.
Well, no.
No? Correct me if I'm wrong.
That was, you can't take a mule and win a Kentucky Derby, you know. I had probably a 10, 15th place car. It was 14 years old.
Right. Just outdated.
And trying to win, run up front with it. You can't do that.
Right,
You can't
understand.
take a
Understand.
antique and beat the classic cars now, you know. So I decided to give it up. But every car that I ever had over there, except the first one, I won a heat race with the first one. But every car I had, except that Chevelle dirt car, I run second with several times. But back then, beating Alfred Hill was like beating Jimmy Johnson.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you beat Alfred Hill, you beat the king, you know.
Now this guy over here, he ain't never quit.
Well,
How hard was it for you to quit? And then I know you guys talked on the phone at least, and maybe you went to some of his races, but how hard was it to quit and watch him keep on getting it?
well, the last race that I started over there, I started on the outside pole. And back in, you'd slip around and soak your tires, so I soaked me a set. And I put them on, and all I could see was winning, winning, winning. And I started on the pole, and I had them put you flicked a set of soaked tires on, and I didn't warm them up.
I got you.
And when they give the green, I dropped, and it spun out with me.
Got you. Yep.
I never even made it to the start-finish line.
Wow.
I said, if a damn man can't make it to the start-finish line, well, I reckon he ain't got no business out here. So
that was kind of your aha moment this time.
yeah.
I
So I took it home. At that time, I kept it in my basement, in the garage in the basement. I backed it in there, got out of it, give it a big kiss on the top, and I said, I'm done with you.
Wow.
This edition of Rattling the Rollcage is brought to you by strutmasters.com. Suspension conversion kits assembled, sold, and serviced right here in North Carolina. When your suspension lets you down, we won't. Give Strutmasters a call at 866-597-2397. And by Vita C Shot. Get your daily dose of vitamin C 10 times over in one Vita C Shot at retailers near you, or you can order online at vitacshot.com. And by Rooster's Country Store in Kernersville. It's the Triad's most unusual home decor, yard art, and gift shop anywhere. And by H&A Directional Boring of Snow Camp, North Carolina. It's owned and operated by 2019 Ace Speedway Modified Champion Gary Causey. This program was filmed on location at Turn and Burn Raceway and Hobby Center in the Midway Town Center off U.S. Highway 52, exit 100. I'm Randy Pettitt, host of Rattling the Rollcage, and this is a production of the Monday Morning Racer. And may all your days be race days.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.